Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever from the world you're tuning in today. Welcome to today's episode of We Talk Cyber with Monica. I'm your host, Monica Verma. Today, we have a very special guest, none other than Thon, Specialist Director of Security Culture at the Norwegian National Security Authority. Welcome, Roar.
Thank you very much, Monica.
So we'll be talking about the human aspect of cybersecurity with you today and a bit about security culture. Very excited to have you on the podcast. Let's jump right into it. So just to start, because we see that hackers not only hack technology, but more often than not, they hack actually people. This is something we have seen over the history. This is not new. I mean, in 1840s, where the term con man was coined, which is convinced man, was basically the concept of somebody building trust with someone and exploiting that trust, right? So we have had that in over centuries now. And one of the biggest security and business risk for companies is to believe that they can either just fix or buy a product and fix security, or to just ignore the human aspect of it. So what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's a problem because we are increasing using more and more technology, and it's so easy to just think about this as a technical problem. Mm-hmm. So what I'm basically saying, what I'm out there speaking about this, it's not technology attacking you, it's people. It's people behind every step of the way, and it's not the tech itself that is evil or doing bad things. It's people.
Right. So people are basically the part of both defending, everything. Attacking, fraud, everything, right?
It's people making technology, buying technology, implementing technology, using technology, all the way.
Breaking technology. Exploiting technology. That's very true. So what do you believe is the importance of the human aspect in both the cybersecurity defense and offense for organizations?
I think knowledge is the key factor here, because both from the user perspective and from the buyers, implementers, well, basically also security people, it's about knowledge. And knowledge comes in so many different ways. One of the things that I'm also saying that security professionals and people with technical background doesn't always understand that most common people don't have the same knowledge as they do. They don't have the same interest in what they're doing, and they don't really care that much about cybersecurity. But we are still, in a way, talking our language, our high-tech language in a way, and we don't necessarily take that into the equation that people are people and they don't have the same knowledge and motivation for cybersecurity as we do.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, taking an example of just the terminology and language, as you point out, there is so much technical and security jargon that we just throw out in the air when we're talking to business, when we're talking to people that are actually working, even though they're responsible for security, but they really don't care, as you said yourself. And more importantly, not only we just throw out this jargon, sometimes we just use it in the wrong way. Like so many people that I've heard confuse what a threat is versus what is a vulnerability versus what is actually the risk and impact on the business. What do you recommend for this kind of like confusion and just throwing out the jargon?
Well, in a way, you have to choose your battles, because it's hopeless. I probably know a few security professionals that would like to use a lot of our time, valuable time, to settle once for all, if you are going to call or what we are doing for. This is a Norwegian word, though. Should we call it sikkerhet or sikring?
Right.
And if you look at the Norwegian language, we have used the term in so many different fashions that we are not able to take that back and really have the right definition about it. And I see that in so many other aspects as well. But sometimes I get a little more triggered about how we're using our language. Earlier this year, a couple of reports came out. I'm not going to mention who that put them out, talking about humans and insider threats. And that turned over in the media to that your employees are the biggest threat in cybersecurity today. And I'm getting pretty mad about that, because
Right.
to say to a common employee that you are in fact a threat. In my world, threats are something you really deal with. For
Right.
me, that
Right.
means that that person is not allowed inside my company if
Right.
I really see him as a threat. People are vulnerabilities. There are risks connected to people, but the
Right.
threat is coming from the threat actors that are using human behavior, technology to do bad things.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good emphasis that you bring out there, because people are not understanding. And as you said, there are certain battles you need to pick, because there is no point of either just going into this endless parade and
Oh,
discussion on
no.
the terminology. But at the same time, what do you then think should be the focus on communicating with people that don't really understand security, whether or are not so interested in it, but understand more often than not, okay, yes, security is important, but they don't understand what is in it for me, what is my role. How do you recommend communication around that?
Well, I think you have to simplify it. My work is often to take things that are complex and explain it in a different language, using small examples, get people basically to think. And one of my messages is also that people are already doing security work, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily think about it as security. So
Mm-hmm.
I use normally I can explain for a group of people working in one company, saying like this. Well, if I were to call one of you in HR or economy or whatever department, and
Mm-hmm.
saying in the phone call, my name is Roar, I'm calling from Oslo. Could you give me the list of the 10 most well-paid people in your company?
Mm-hmm.
And most of those that I would call would probably just say, "No, are you crazy? You're not getting that."
Right.
And some would probably be able to show some kind of legal paragraph saying that they're not allowed to give me that, or they will just say, "Well, we don't do that in our company."
Mm-hmm.
But ending that call without telling me what I asking to, very few people will think that they have in fact done security work.
Right.
They will just
Right.
think about it as I done my job. This crazy guy called, right? But
Yeah,
they have in fact
done that, right?
keep their mouth shut of things that shouldn't talk about. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
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 it's
to get
kind
them
of
to understand that they're already doing it, but
uh-huh.
we have to pretty much ask them to do a little bit more, to think about this a little bit more as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we always want 100% solutions, and we're never going to get that in cybersecurity
Right.
anyway. But we have to acknowledge that we have to take small steps to increase security. I
Mm-hmm.
know I really want to increase it 20% right away, right? But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, makes total
Small baby
sense.
steps.
Makes total sense. And I mean, the whole idea of simplification is also what I tell and talk about. I have this principle in cybersecurity, which I call simplify, focus, execute.
Mm-hmm.
You need to simplify and simplification should not be understood or misunderstood as that it's lack of maturity. It's just the basis of how you communicate, how you
Mm-hmm.
simplify, how you tell people what role do they have to play and what's in it for me. Like the example
Yeah.
you gave about these people who will not give you the information. By default, they're practicing actually access management.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
default, they're taking care of security. And by default, they're taking care of privacy as well.
Yeah.
So they're basically implementing all these concepts
Mm-hmm.
in a much simpler way,
Yeah.
explained in a much simpler way. And then, as you said, 100% security doesn't exist. I love to call out people who just go, and even vendors that go like, oh, we are building AI machine learning enabled 100% security. We are it, you know? And I'm like, okay, even when you build, like, even security professionals cannot ever offer 100% security. So you have to really focus.
Yeah. Whenever I hear people talking about, I'm just basically shutting down. I'm not listening anymore, because you don't really understand what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
that's also one part that, and this also has to do with the human aspect, us as security professionals, that we
Mm-hmm.
also have a way of, most people are doing this are pretty much good motivated people. They have their things they want to implement. You have different things that it's all it's if it's password, it's firewalls, it's antivirus, it's so many different levels of security, right? And everybody is fighting their own niche
Agenda.
in a way, and they really want 100% in their niche. But they don't understand that if you add up all this together, it's going to be too much. It's going to be expensive, too expensive. It's not going to work in a regular modern society. But none of those, in a way, want to decrease their level of influence compared to rise something else that we probably need to rise. Right. So I mean, to look upon this on the whole perspective, we need firewalls, we need security education of our employees, we need all of those things, but they have to work together, and we have to see them together.
And that's very correct, because businesses' first aspect of business is not cybersecurity. I mean, they're doing a business. That's their main aspect, right? And then how basically cybersecurity enables that, or how cybersecurity integrates into that, provides a value for the organization, is what really one should discuss and talk about. So based on that, what is one question you would actually like the CEO or the organization or the business of a company or organization to ask and consider in order for them to basically have a better understanding of what security is bringing for them? If I was in management, right, I was working directly in business, I was not in security, I go to my security advisor or CISO or security leader. What would you recommend the business side to ask one question for them to better understand what value does cybersecurity bring in for them?
Well, that's a very hard question to ask and answer as well, because so many different organizations and businesses and needs in a way. So of course that question will vary if you are a flower shop in the corner, or if you are in the business in defense equipment and stuff like that, but because the threats and the risks are different. Right. But one question from a top level leadership, I would ask if is really to stress and not just ask the question, but in fact test yourself and your organization. Are we really prepared if something happened? Right. I mean, history is so full of, this is a funny thing, because over the time, I've been doing this for almost 18 years now. Over the time, there have been an increased interest from the CEO levels and the executive level in our society regarding cybersecurity. So people like me has been more and more invited into the boardrooms and talk to the CIOs directly. And I'm not necessarily invited by the guy or the woman that has the responsibility for ICT or cyber and whole in that organization. I'm invited from somebody else into that room. And sometimes I feel that I'm not that welcome from in a way, a colleague of mine. Right. Because they are very anxious to really, what is he going to talk about? Right. And then this famous question is always coming. I'm talking about cyber risks and threats and stuff. And then the CEO turns over to the person that has the responsibility for cyber and technology, and asking a question like this: does this happen us? Does it happen often? And you understand that this question has never been raised before in that room. They don't have a day-to-day or a weekly conversation about what is really going on in our organization. Right. And also the sales words, buzzwords that professionals are using. We are encrypting. We are doing this. We have a firewall, and that's just taking the word for it from the executive level. So if you don't have the knowledge, and you really want to know what's going on in your own organization, test yourself, stress yourself, get somebody to attack you and really see what's happening and do this for as real as possible. And
that's a very good point. What you also mentioned here is that the cybersecurity itself, the people that are working with cybersecurity, the leaders that are actually having the responsibility and from the overall perspective of cybersecurity, it's important for them to lift the view to a level that's a bird's eye view for the organization, and to be able to build a bridge between what they're doing at the technical level, how does it impact the business, and what does it mean for the business and the CEO, right? And that conversation sometimes gets lost in the use of the buzzwords, as you say. We're doing encryption. Okay.
And that goes back to what I'm saying, that security professional and people with technical background doesn't always understand that everybody else doesn't understand their world, and they're using a language that also creates a lot of trouble. It's a funny thing that when tech people or cybersecurity people have been talking, they're saying, well, you can't be a CEO these days if you don't understand technology. No, for me that's completely wrong, because technology, cyber, is just on another level, like law, marketing, economy. You have CEOs today that has a background in law. They had to learn marketing, they had to learn economy, and they also probably have a lot of good help dealing with those on that level. So of course, if you know and understand technology, good for you, but then you probably have to learn law and economy and all those other things. So this is complex, right?
Right,
so
right.
We shouldn't, it's up to us to communicate cybersecurity on a level that, in fact, the board, the CEOs really understand, and you have to make the argument for the business case, not just telling people how bad the world is out there and there's so many threats and so many hackers and they can do this and stuff. In a way, over the years, I make fun of this, because I say security professionals, their main holiday is not Christmas, it's Halloween, right? Because we like to scare people. And we're pretty good at scaring people, because everything we have been doing the last 15 years is telling everybody how dangerous the world is and everything that can go wrong with your computer.
Right.
But suddenly people are starting to listening to us. And then when you get your 10 minutes with your CEO, he's not there to listening to how bad the world is. He wants solutions. He wants suggestions.
Exactly.
And he wants to know how much this is going to cost him. So we have to change our language to get our message through.
Absolutely. And I mean, despite the fact that there is one aspect of how scary the world is, but I mean, still businesses are running, digitalization is happening, we're connecting, turning on the computer, connecting to the internet. That is it, right? And we have to just help the business and basically defend their organization in a right aspect, in a right way, despite all these connections and challenges of technology. So that's really not one should not really use it as a scare or a panic, because that's what offenders do. That's not what we should be doing, actually. That makes total sense.
And we are also, a security professional, I don't think we are celebrating ourselves enough in a way, because security works. Cybersecurity works.
Right.
I mean, look at the situation we are not finished with the pandemic, right? But so thousands of people has been working from home.
Right.
That the enabler for be able to do that is technology, right?
Right.
And technology is protected by good cybersecurity. And of course, my own organization has been out and warning people about, working from home could increase the risks and stuff. Of course. And it has been also tried from the threat perspective that people are being hacked and stuff from home. But all in all, we are winning thousands of time each day.
Right.
But we don't talk about that, because we are still just concerning about the one thing we of course doesn't want to happen.
That goes wrong. Yeah.
But we are not that good of, in fact, talking about everything that we are stopping on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That we are denying, that we are really dealing with.
Yeah.
So other people doesn't really understand how often this happened. It's happened as we speak right now.
Exactly. And that's a very philosophical but very, very correct estimation of what's happening. Because I mean, one of the sayings in English is charity begins at home. And if we really want the society to understand what good work we are doing, it's kind of also important for us to celebrate that. If we don't do that, it's very difficult for other people to really understand what work we are doing. And that
Yeah.
also comes in a part of like being humble, but at the same time, still celebrating the small wins that you get along the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. An important part of this whole communication that we have talked is also the security culture, right? And you, of all the people, are one of the best spokesperson for security culture. So I would like to just touch that topic. How do you build a good security culture? And more importantly, how do you measure whether you have a good security culture, or do you need to do some work?
Yeah. First of all, security professionals has a tendency to put the word security before another word to create a new language, right? Because I've been a part of writing my own organization's definition of cybersecurity in Norway back in 2005. So this is many years ago. But I also challenged my own definition in a way, because we are using the word cyber security culture, but that's a new word. And when you have a new word, people struggle a little bit to understand what is really meant. So then you're ending up in situations where you have politicians, leaders, organizations saying, well, we haven't implemented security culture yet. I mean, and then you don't really understand what we're talking about, because you already have security culture. It's a question if it's good or bad. Right. But if you use another word, organizational culture, everybody understands what that is. And you probably haven't heard of one person saying, well, at our workplace, we don't have organizational culture. They will probably just complain and saying it's bad. So we can improve it, right? So everybody has it. What it is really about, it's basically what's the most of the organization and people working in the organization are doing on the security level on a daily basis. So you already have it, but do you understand how is it good? Is it bad? And this is complex, because for me, security culture is about what we are doing, our basically behavior. But you have, of course, the definition of culture, a lot of other things underlying there. But for me, it's about to get most people to do the right thing when the situation happens on a daily basis, right? Right. Do I click on the link? Do I not, or whatever? That's the simplest example of that. But so to measure it, for me, it's not enough to have a questionnaire to ask people questions. That will give you some numbers of their knowledge. Right. But if their knowledge is good, there is no reason to think that they will behave in the same way that they will answer the questionnaire, right? So you have to measure this basically real time and during real situations. And what I find that most organizations probably already have a lot of those numbers. How many attacks do we have related to phishing? How many people are in fact falling for phishing, if that is an example? How many people are using their identity cards? There's so many stuff that you can use. And some companies now has done a lot of things to look into this, and instead of just doing a phishing campaign, they will in fact do a lot of stuff and using your own numbers and stats to see and to measure kind of what's the status here. And when you know that, you have something to measure, and then you have to find the solutions on how to fix this, and then measure again to see if you have evolved. Right. So that means what I hear from you is also that an implicit part of that is also the awareness around it, right? That's how you also evolve from one measurement to the next measurement. And as you say, it's very true, because the culture is the culture, and it's a part of the organization. So adding the word security to it doesn't make it any different, because here we're talking more about the behavior and not so much about which security technical controls are in place. Yeah. And also problem with words and people is that again, people want to have the smallest narrow of error. So to make sure that you really understand what I'm talking about now, we're putting words like information security culture, cyber security culture, and we're
Right.
putting so many words in before the culture part that it baffles me that we are doing this.
So the key aspect is culture, and the key aspect is understanding human behavior.
How do we deal with security in our organization on a daily basis?
Right. Perfect. That sounds very good. Before we sign off today, I would just like to ask you one last question. Do you have any recommended reading, audio, video that you would like people to do on a daily or on a regular basis, just to be more aware of the holistic cybersecurity approach, or also around the culture part, as you said, and the behavior part?
Hopefully your podcast in the future then.
I really hope that.
Yes.
We would love to have you more often on the podcast.
In fact, related to my country, my own organization are also having a podcast, so I have to do some commercial for that as well. But I don't have a favorite really. There's so much good stuff out there.
Right.
But if I really want to say what people should do, talk to people from other aspects of life, professions. Talk to the users, talk to the people that has the opposite view of what you are thinking. I mean, a guy or a girl working with one particular small field related to cybersecurity would probably have a lot to learn from people working in another small part of cybersecurity. So to measure those gaps, to understand, to get the better overview, thinking that, oh, of course, if I'm doing this in fact infecting that and doing that has that effect in the other part.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And that makes total sense, because a lot of different fields actually somehow affect the cybersecurity or security anyway, because when you think about how do you budget, how do you make sure that you're still benefiting from it, what is too much, what is not too much, when is it enough, you kind of need to understand the other aspects that are outside the security world. Fantastic. It was lovely to have you on this podcast, Roar. Lovely to have these conversations with you. And I really like the fact that we talk more and more in the terms of culture, and we talk a bit and understand about human behavior and not tie it just to the very technical aspects of security. So that's wonderful to hear. So I'll be signing off. That was Roar Thon today. And this was your host, Monica Verma. This was today's episode. We'll have more episodes coming up with different guests and different opinions and enlightening discussions. Please stay tuned. Signing off now. Thank you. Stay safe.